haven't heard the Arc Ultra yet, so it's hard to comment on that.
It's nice.
Is
It's
it?
really nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the bass significant? Is that significantly better?
Yeah. You're still putting a sub with it.
The music goes boom.
Yeah. The music goes boom. Perfect. I have a 5-year-old. This is very
That's
reminiscent.
exactly what a 5-year-old said.
Daddy, why does the music go boom boom? Like, well, because gunshots, kid.
This is the hardest beat anybody's ever heard. It's made out of gunshots. Gunshots are the beat. But you ever hear harder than that?
On this episode of ResiWeek, we wrap up 2024 and look towards 2025. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, the last minute. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matty Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Katye McGregor-Bennett. She's the president of K&B Communications. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being here. Then we have Mark Feinberg. He's the president of Home Theater Advisors. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great now. Trying to, deal with this crappy rainy weather in New York, but other than that, life is good.
It's raining here too. It's very depressing. And then Joe didn't show up for this one. So Joe is not here. He was supposed to be here, but he's not here.
Miss
This
you,
is
Joe.
a Joe Free show.
Yeah, it's a Joe free show. That's the name of the show. All right, no Joe, Snow Joe. Oh Lord, it's the end of the year show, everybody.
Yeah, little punch stroke on with that.
Yeah, yep.
The end of the
It's
year,
hour
we know
two.
it.
Hour 2 of recording today, and it's been a busy week, and it's Monday, so yeah, you can let that sink in because it's almost the end of the year, which is why it's busy and crazy and all of those things. All right, as we normally do on the end of the year show, we're really going to talk about two different things. First, we'll go around the table and talk about the biggest thing, the biggest story, the biggest product, whatever you want, of 2024. And then we will talk about what we foresee in 2025. And I will challenge both of you to surpass our good friend Avi, who was talking last week about it being chaos. Nothing but chaos. So yeah, we'll see what we've got. Katie, I'm going to start with you. 2024, what did you think was the biggest story, had the biggest impact? What was going on that got you all excited?
Well, it got me all excited, or the industry all excited, because that's not necessarily exactly the same thing.
Hey,
but
if you can divide that up, that'd be awesome.
yeah. Let's see if we can get you into 3 hours of recording today, huh? Yeah.
Perfect. I can do
it.
it.
Yeah. Okay. The Ancient Scrolls. Let's start with number one. No, I think, it's interesting. It's been a little bit of time before or since we've had like the big thing that happened in the year, or the big product, right? And so 2024 for me wasn't a big product year per se. There were definitely product introductions that were huge. There were evolutions that were significant, but it wasn't like this was the year where all of a sudden the new thing hit the market, which for me is positive. I think we kind of do need to slow our roll a little bit and get to know the products and technologies really well, so that we are the experts in the room all the time, and not constantly having new technology come to market that we have to understand in order to integrate well. Not that we don't want to continuously evolve, but I think that, the last couple of years have shown us that leveling out and deepening the technology advancements is a good thing. So I think, for me, it was just watching the evolution of things, not necessarily looking for the new thing. The biggest news, though, I think for me was probably the QSC acquisition, simply because I, didn't see that coming. But not that I followed that closely. It was just, it was quite a big surprise to me. And that's, on the commercial side. I think on the resi side, and I do have, I have some bias, but I think the Daisy introduction to the market and the acquisition and growth there is really significant. And from an industry perspective, is showing that there's a different model that might show us a little bit more longevity than the current one is potentially maybe going to have. I am biased because I work with them, but I work with them because I'm passionate about what they're doing and very intrigued with the opportunity that it provides. So those are two from me. Definitely more kind of behind that, but Mark, I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
From now on, I'm not asking these questions without giving you guys a pre-warning of you cannot talk about these two topics, because I know what Mark's talking about too. And both of those were on my list of things that were big and important. So thanks for that.
I don't know what
Mark.
you're talking about that. I don't want to give anyone any PTSD going on here, but I think the Sonos app introduction had to be the biggest news and the biggest disappointment of the year in the industry. I think it's messed with a lot of people's business models, client relationships, and just pure individual sanity. I also think talking about acquisitions, was it this year or last year that the ADI acquisition of Snap was announced?
June.
That was June.
June.
Yeah. So that one, I didn't see that one coming. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't have guessed that one would happen. So a little bit surprising, and I'm hoping it doesn't mess up the industry, because now we don't really. It is really. Those are the two biggest players, I believe, in the distribution and space. So it's a little tough. I don't really consider Snap a distributor that much. They're more of a manufacturer at this point. So yeah, I think the Sonos, for lack of a better word, mess. I think that dominated at least all of my industry social media feeds for months, and is still rearing its ugly head here and there as people continue to run into problems and things continue not to get fixed. I am using the headphones. They're pretty good. I do think they're pretty good. I haven't heard the Arc Ultra yet, so it's hard to comment on that. But these are what caused all the problem. These headphones caused all the problem.
It's really nice. Okay. Yeah. We put one in. It's a nice bar.
Okay. Is the bass that significantly better? That was your whole thing. Is that new bass driver? Okay.
Yeah, you're still putting a sub with it.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Because any grown up would have a sub, because it's a sub.
And we want them because we're grown-ups.
Yeah. Well,
the music goes boom.
Yeah. The music goes boom. Perfect. There's so many jokes there. You're terrible.
I'm like 5.
Music has to go boom boom. Oh gosh. Yep. I have a 5-year-old. This is very
That's
reminiscent.
exactly what a 5-year-old said.
Yeah. Daddy, why does the music go boom boom? Well, because gunshots, kid. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to echo essentially both of you and wrap it in the badge of kind of like acquisitions and mergers, right? Because we saw Daisy making a lot of moves. They just completed their 8th of this year. We saw Snap get bought up. We saw ADI get bought up by Snap. We saw Residio buy something else. We saw Bose sell off and then buy. We've seen like the combination of odd bedfellows has been very large, because VCs moved a lot of stuff, which they normally do. I don't think any of us are shocked by that, because VCs don't they're not long term. They're never investing long term. So when they buy your favorite audio company, you get very excited, and you shouldn't, because they will move that the second they can. They're not in the long game.
I'm just concerned that they see this being the peak. Like, they see this as the top.
Yes.
Like,
as soon as they see an out, they're gone, and they're not investing in R&D, which is
but when you see this much activity kind of all at once, is that signaling that this might be a peak in the market because everybody's getting out of their investments?
No, I think everybody's changing their investments.
Okay,
that's what I think it is.
Okay.
Well, yeah. If you look at the last 30 days, the market has changed dramatically. For a bunch of topics, which we will not get into on this show because it's not a political show. Thank you very much. As my government is about to crumble, we're recording this on the 8th, and our VP, in your terminology, just stepped down. So all kinds of fun stuff.
Great.
Maybe.
You see the one flying all the drones over New Jersey?
Nope, that's a different country.
That's a different country. We still have the worst country
getting
ever.
political. Stop it.
That's my big story for 2025. Is everyone's going to buy their own drones to see what's going on up there. Drones in New Jersey.
The other aspect is miscommunication. That is the biggest story for me of the year. Is just a continual cluster of miscommunication from manufacturers, from integrators, from everybody. We've ragged on quite a few manufacturers, the one Mark mentioned specifically, for not only having issues, which I think everyone can understand that happening, but the follow-up in the way that it was addressed. Katie, you and I have talked about it multiple times this year about there's a way to get a message across and communicate with people that takes some level of responsibility, some promise to do better, and some follow-up steps that you're going to take to rectify that. And yet 2 weeks ago, we were talking about one of these major manufacturers getting called out by one of the biggest names in the podcast game for having a product and customer service that was atrociously bad. And you can go look that up if you want to see the actual quote. But that has been huge this year. And I don't know what it is that's causing that to be so prevalent in the industry. Heck, I think that same week we also talked about an industry initiative where they're asking for money with no explanation of what they're doing with said money. Again, love the concept. The marketing and the messaging has been incredibly lax, which is entertaining to say the least. All right, Katie, what do you see how I'm walking you away from that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I got you.
It's like a crab walk. Let's just go over here.
Did you just say crab walk?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my son is obsessed with crab walk. So every time that commercial comes on, Daddy, crab walk. Does your truck crab walk? No, my truck does not crab walk, son.
Mm-hmm. But it actually is a really good segue for the question I think you're going to ask me. So.
It is. It is.
Tee it up.
What do you foresee 2025 looking like? What is we have? I'm not going to say political upheaval, but the first 3 months of the year in the U.S. are going to be very interesting. It sounds like they might be very interesting here. They seem to be quite interesting in Europe right now. There's just a lot going on in the manufacturing related space, not necessarily just ours completely, but from global trade might be somewhat affected. What do you see? Is this going to be another year of just like, hey, we also have this product? Do you see anything cool coming or anything interesting? Or is it just going to be, in Avi's words, chaos?
Oh, so I can't use Avi's word now? Because
no, you can. That's fine.
No.
We can all say it's going to be chaos.
Right.
Mark will say it's chaotic, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
to be different.
I was going to attempt to allude to the fact that it's going to be smooth sailing and no problem. Yeah, none of what you said is actually going to happen, but it's already happening. And the reality is it's not just the U.S. I mean, where are our components coming from? The majority of the things that go into the things that we're selling are coming from other places that are about to be handed potentially some pretty significant increases. So those are going to be handed down. I think the bigger conversation for what's in 2025 is how do we handle the very real potential of needing to raise prices across the board, all the way across the board. And that includes you on the integration side, all the way across the board. Manufacturers are going to need to raise their prices to what percent, to what degree for the next 45 days. No one's really going to know, but those conversations are taking place now. And for projects in the pipeline that have a very long cycle, you need to be having those conversations now. For some reason, I shifted into Katie's PSA for the day and not answering your question, but this is going to be the bigger story of the year. It is absolutely going to be chaos, and it's already starting. It's just depending on where you are in the conversation with your manufacturers, where you are with your pipeline, it just may not be evident. But I think it's well beyond the first quarter that these issues are going to start cropping up. It's going to take us through the year. And I think that is a problem because it's obviously going to put a pinch on resources. So unless we're planning ahead for what things are going to cost and making the changes now that we need to have in place, the industry may have a challenge bringing in the resources, bringing in the talent, bringing in the support, bringing in, all of those things. And for an industry that historically has done everything at the last minute, sorry, it's true. Mm-hmm. If this is the last minute, right? So we need to really be thinking about that, because how this conversation is shaped in 25, when we're looking back at 25, I think it's going to be enlightening, and I think it's also going to be a little gut wrenching. I fear that we're going to see a lot of attrition this year, sadly.
Let me ask you this before we go to Mark. I have been on this bandwagon, at least internally, in my own companies for 6 months, that our price points are outrageously low. Even though we are competitive with other people in our region, that, you know, we're in the midst of, we're probably 2 years into kicking off a newer company, or reviving a company that an additional company I started a couple years ago. I'm doing a deeper dive on that than I ever have on our AV business, because again, it's a much more competitive market, and recognizing the fact that we are underselling ourselves. Is your assessment that we likely as an industry need to be raising prices? Do you think that is strictly based on, shall we say, global changes versus being behind and not relative?
Are you talking about labor or product? Because I feel like
everything.
Because product, I mean, if you look, everything I sell has gone up.
I was asking Katie. Is your name Katie?
He's my proxy.
No, that's fine.
So
you better make sure you know what he's gonna say.
You mean?
No, it's the fun show where I get to be a little feisty.
Yeah, exactly.
More than normal, right?
Right. Well, and my answer, to be clear, is really only partially loaded, because I can't speak to labor, and I really honestly have no idea where we are from an industry perspective, if we're too high, too low. I suspect that industry average, we're probably far too low. Thinking about it as a communicator, and your point about bad communication being one of the leading stories of the year, is I think that this is part of it. It's how we communicate the value of our offering. That needs to rise very significantly, because so too, if we're going to be increasing prices, we also then have to increase the value proposition and the understanding on the other side of why we're charging what we're charging, and our services are so much better. I think that's going to be tough, because that explanation of why what we're doing is better and therefore should come at a different price point, I don't know that we're totally crushing that concept just yet, still. Industry-wide. I hear a lot from manufacturers that the sales skills need to be elevated again, and I think it's true. We've lost a lot of sales trainers over the last decade. What used to be standards in the industry doesn't exist anymore. So I deviated a little bit, but I think the answer is yes. We do need to raise prices across the board, but we also have to be better at communicating the value of those services and the differentiators that the services and the goods that we provide in the channel are delivering. And I think that's a huge challenge.
Labor pricing is hard. So I think every integrator, every dealer has no idea where they are in the marketplace, whether they're high, whether they're low. I think too many people price by their own pocketbook and not by what the market will bear. So I think you're right. Probably in labor, there probably is a lot of opportunity for those who aren't tracking the market well, but I don't think they know what the opportunity is. On the product side, I look at the hardware we buy and sell. In the last 5 years, that product has gone up 50 to 150%. So I don't know if there's that much more room, for universal remote, for example, to be more than, $2,000 for a single room universal remote, which is sort of what it's getting to at this point. So I'm not sure if product pricing has that much more room to grow dramatically. If you grow it, now it's going to have to Katie's point, because there's going to be tariffs, and those tariffs have to be passed along, just as supply chain issues were passed along in 2020 and 2021, and that's going to happen.
That's a good point.
Okay, go ahead. What was the other? Then it's the. Do you have a comment to that? And you want me to move on?
Well, I can either comment, or you can jump right into what you think. Would you like a comment?
Yes, please.
I'll give you a comment. All right. I'll give you a comment.
I respect your thought.
That's adorable. At least one of us does. Yeah, why not? Oh. All right. No one's going to listen to this show. On the labor aspect, I will argue that we across the board are undercutting ourselves. I don't believe that the average consumer has any idea what it costs to actually have someone show up to their house for anything.
But I
It
think that's
doesn't.
true across all trades, right? Like plumbers,
That's what I'm
electricians,
saying.
right? Exactly.
It is
Exactly.
across all trades
Right.
that I think the average consumer still has this concept in their mind that they can get someone to show up to fix something for them that they do not know how to fix for $20 in a 6-pack. That is still that concept in their mind that, hey, if I slip you a little something, you can fix this, right? It's like, no, we have to pay insurance, we have to pay WSIB, we have to pay this, we have to pay that, we have to get the fuel in the vehicle to get you there, or the subway fare if you're in New York, like Mark. There are these massive costs that are affecting what happens every day that I don't believe the consumer ever really fully understood, but it's continually getting worse. And those costs continue to rise. And I think it's getting incredibly difficult to say, yeah, we'll show up for, $75 an hour because I pay my guys $30 an hour so we can do that.
Right.
I think honestly, I think the trades as a whole need to take a really hard look on what it costs to actually get somebody on site.
I think a lot of trades lose money on service. I mean,
100%.
And I think it's terrible. I mean, you look at what, your utilization on service people is going to be maybe 40, 50%. It takes almost as long to get to the job site as it does to fix the thing on the job site.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's really, really bad. On the product side, so much of our general product has been commoditized, but I think there's also a bit of a pushback for that. And if you disagree with me, go look at the hundreds of thousands of people walking around with ridiculously priced tumblers.
Yeah.
And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And I have a ton of them. I was holding up one that starts with Y and ends in I.
And the lids stay on those. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Unlike the red ones, or the ones from that other company. Anyways, people will pay premiums for premium products. I think it's about positioning the products that you sell as premium and going from there. As to your example of the $2,000 single room remote, that does become a challenge, but we're also seeing people move away from that because they don't need it.
That was probably my biggest story of 25. Yeah.
Yep, that's a whole other story that we've talked about multiple times on this show. I think that industry is very close to death. It's going to have some challenges. But that all being said, I think we're to the point where, and again, because I've started this other company that's in the trades, but in a different trade completely, looking at the way the traditional tradesperson in that industry would price a project as, like cost of materials plus 20, that doesn't cut it. That maybe helps you feed your family that night, but that does not build a business. That does not build an industry. And I think that's one of the issues that we continue to talk as a channel, that we are trying to be an industry. And again, I'm going to be kind of harsh for a minute, but we don't typically position ourselves as an industry, because you can look at a interior designer who charges significantly more than we ever do for politely way less work and way less expertise. And people will pay that without question. But when there's something tangible, like most of the services that we provide, it's tough. And not every, and again, I'm not picking on designers for that reason, but there's a perceived value. And I think we have to get to that point to do that. But
well, I think people see us as a trade, just as they see plumbers, electricians as a trade. They see designers as a professional. That's the difference.
Yep.
They'll pay their designer like they'll pay their attorney, like they'll pay their architect. They're not going to pay us in that way. They don't see us in that way, at least.
All right, Mark, what do you think was 2025?
I don't know. I think 2025, I'm hoping that, the LED walls come down and to be somewhat more doable in terms of pricing to get those into some smaller commercial spaces and maybe even some residential. Probably not 25, it's probably 26, 27 hope, to be more honest.
You realize we just talked about raising prices, right? And now you're talking about wanting to lower prices. Would you decide what you want?
That's what he wants.
You know what? Now, I didn't even catch that, to be honest.
Right now.
I didn't even catch that.
All I want for Christmas is a lower price
LED wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, I'd love an LED wall for Christmas.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. Where's Skylar when you need him?
Here that you guys can't see.
But I also think that's another thing that there's a difference between raising prices and things that are just like new and expensive. I think so I think if those start to come, without having to get the no-name brands that you have no idea, whether they're going to last a week or a month, getting real brands and getting real support and being able to do that, at a price point where we can actually, where the average high net worth person will do it. Right now it's the ultra high net worth on the residential side. I think that it's a couple of years out. I think it's 25. I'm hoping 25 will be the year Sonos gets their stuff together.
It's okay.
Sorry.
You'll get another.
I'm hoping the app will be normal by the end of the year. Sorry, I know that was harsh.
It's a Christmas wish for all of us.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Matt. I mean, the death of the universal remote. I mean, I think that it's been happening. We've been talking about it. The universal remote, and even to some extent, the whole centralized control system, I think, is getting a little less.
It has been very, how do I say this somewhat politely? It has been very comical to watch the advent of, you know what, we can just use individual apps. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
For the average, for the majority of consumers, to look at that and be like, yeah, I don't understand why you didn't think we could do this.
What you lose is really the
literally do it for everything else.
What you lose is the integration. Hey, I'm leaving the house. I want to turn off the lights. The TVs turn off. The music turns off. The shades drop if it's over certain. You lose kind of the automation aspect of it. The one app I don't think people really care about. It's the automation aspect is where the control system brings something different. That's where I try and position it, as opposed to open one app instead of four. People don't care. I'm not doing my shades and my lights at the same time. Or my shades and my music at the same time. I don't care moving between two different apps on that.
You don't have it moving when the sub goes boom boom?
Exactly. When the music goes back up. When the music goes boom. Get your terminology right.
Well, no, technically it is the sub that goes boom.
Someday, Mark. Someday he'll get it.
I know. But the line earlier is when the music goes boom.
Yeah, you're good. All right. Let's wrap this up with, I don't know if I have a prediction for 2025. I think we're going to see, no, I don't think there's going to be chaos. I think actually, hold on. Let me refine that point. I think we will be shown minor aspects of chaos and told that there is chaos everywhere. Well, there will not be general chaos. I think a lot of this is overblown. I hope I'm correct, because chaos is bad. That being said, I think we're going to see more companies and honestly some manufacturers that close up shop. I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation just in general. And I think we're going to see a switch in go-to-market strategies for the industry, because I have yet to see that major, like, hey, we moved up in homes, in vehicles, and now we're going to move up our tech. The tech continues to get simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a channel, we have to find a way to modify that go-to-market strategy and be a luxury good without necessarily being a luxury product. Because there is, Katie, you're sitting in one right now. That is a luxury good and a luxury product. But I think that there is a vast opportunity to find a way to provide a luxury experience even though they don't have the dedicated space like the one that you're sitting in right now. I think that's going to be the major shift for 2025, because even if the market goes gangbusters and everybody all of a sudden has a ton of additional disposable income, I don't think they're going to spend it on the things we traditionally would expect them to spend it on within the industry.
Yeah.
I think they're going to look
and that's not what I'm hearing from people on the street. That it's going. I don't think that's going to be the case. That's not where the market's going. You go to those who make the money in the market. That's not where it's going.
I said if.
If. Okay, if. Okay, you did.
Calm down.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap it up. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy all the things, Happy New Year. If you've missed that, Katie, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Canby Communications, where can they do that?
Yeah. Easiest thing is to go to kmbcommunications.com or look for us on the Sphere. We're the ones with the mountain in our logo. So if you see KB Communications and you see no mountain, it is not us. If you want to connect with me personally, Katye McGregor-Bennett, Katye. Again, if you find the Y and the E, then you know you found me. If you didn't, then you didn't. Hit me up on LinkedIn. If there's a conversation you want to have, I'd love to explore how you're doing your storytelling and hear more from you guys. Matt, thanks for letting me join your show. Appreciate it.
Always. Thank you for being here. Mark, thank you for joining. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
I think the best place is at hometheateradvisors.com and a little bit on Facebook. And if people want to connect with me directly, it's Mark Feinberg. It's Mark at hometheateradvisors.com and I think it's at Mark Feinberg 93 on Facebook, or just Mark Feinberg on Facebook. And as Katie said, Matt, thanks for having me today, and thanks for having me on several times this year. I always have a good time with the show. As much as you make fun of me.
Me? It doesn't sound like something I would do every time you're here.
Never.
Not at all.
We
never do that. Yeah. All right. Thank you again. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, watching, listening. Hopefully you've learned something. Maybe not today, but just in the general course of the year. As always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter, X, most other social platforms. I am still not on TikTok, sorry. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.